Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, where our intention is to provide you with impactful, educational, and realistic information to help you progress on your journey to live wellness on purpose now and for future generations. This podcast shares insights to current health trends with industry and brand leaders in the health and wellness world. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods from Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. My name is Marissa Loughlin. I'm a holistic nutritionist and functional lab practitioner. I've been working alongside Joanne's Place for the last 8 years, and I'm so excited to continue to be your host for this podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, your source for health and wellness insights. For today's episode, we are going to be chatting about how to make the holiday season less stressful and more restful with the assistance of the most supportive nutrients, medicinal mushrooms. For today's episode, we've asked none other than Jason Watkin from Purica. He is the founder and formulator behind this amazing health and wellness brand that is Canadian. And we're going to get into more about the brand later in the episode, but he's also going to share his expertise in how medicinal mushrooms, specifically reishi, can make an incredible impact on your health this holiday season. So without further ado, let's get into it and join me in welcoming Jason back onto our podcast. Hello, Jason. Welcome back to the Wellness on Purpose podcast. It's always a pleasure having you join us on here. And I know we've had some amazing feedback from our previous episodes from our listeners. So I know that our listeners are also going to absolutely love today's episode. And I wanted to start off this interview a little bit differently than we have in previous ones because we just did a training and I heard you talking about Purica as the brand and talking about the formulations and how it started. And it's really rooted in the origination of this brand is from ballet dancers. And actually, not a lot of people might know that, but that is where you started to transform people's lives. And then it went from ballet dancers into pets, and then other formulations have hit the market. And we've talked about some of those other formulations on previous podcasts, but some of our community may still not know how amazing Purica is. Before we talk about, the product, the story behind the product, I really have an interesting question for you. If it wasn't the health and wellness industry, and this might be hard because after hearing you talk the last week, you are so incredibly passionate about the health and wellness industry, and that's what's made you so successful. But if you weren't in this industry in particular, and this sector of the health and wellness, of natural products, like where do you envision where you would be today?
So I've had this once before. I was they invited me to a high school to do a business roundup for kids that are interested in going to business. And it was really simple. Is right away I said I would probably be a monk, which is odd. But because that's my real passion is in sharing like a really deep kind of contemplative side. But it's exciting to share this type of thing as well. And I think it's all part and parcel. But yeah, I would say 100% it would be a monk. I don't even know anything else that I would choose.
I love that. I mean, I still think it intertwines so naturally with the health and wellness industry of just like caring for yourself and being intuitive with yourself. And I think it's all intertwined. And I'm not even the slightest bit shocked that that's your answer. Which is so good. Amazing. So let's get back to the reality. Obviously, you're in the health and wellness industry. Purica has been in the health and wellness industry for some time. There's lots of things we can talk about today. But one thing we do know about the industry we're in right now, it is growing rapidly. So fast. There's so many products, there's so many brands, and there's just a lot of change also happening in our industry as well today. The other thing that we know is people are starting to invest their time in becoming educated in our industry, as well as investing their money in our industry, just obviously based on things that have rapidly changed in the last few years. So what I really want to do right now is just take some time as to really highlight Purica as a brand. We've done it very briefly on previous episodes, but I'm going to challenge you to tell us about Purica in under 2 minutes. So tell us the top things that we need to know about Purica. Why is it so amazing? And why does it stand as such an industry leader amongst other brands in the health and wellness industry?
So I think thank you for that. The quick thing is, right off the top, we were never supposed to be a company or a product. So we never had that envision. We're not business people. It was because of the results with recovery first, the product, that were significant with what they term colloquially as autoimmune diseases. And the results were profound, the blood work profound, but that wasn't expected. And when German MDs pushed and said, whatever this guy's doing should be a drug. And then I still didn't have that in my mind, came back to Canada, working with horses instead. And then I think what makes us different is that we're results-based. We never thought about being a company. We're not business people. It's not about money or anything like that. It's about wellness. And then we went a step further is when I went into comparative religion and philosophy, and then 14 years with the Tibetans, to focus on the mind and the body and about calm and clear. And I often talk about that blue sky mind idea, when you pop above all your identifications with thoughts and emotions and stances, like your head in the clouds, which is what most of us are doing all the time, and just kind of pop above that and see, whoa, everything's way more open than I thought. But then that has to translate to physical wellness as well. So we have both those sides that we always focus on: your mind, your body, and true wellness. So it has to work to get rid of pain, inflammation, things like that, but also to affect you psychologically. So I think that's where Purica really shines, is we won't sacrifice quality at all. Never supposed to be a company, so we're not business focused, money and that kind of thing. It's about how can we share wellness and how can we do it from the ground up. And I think that's really where we do shine. We're cutting edge in those different things, and that we're always going to be focused with the mind, and then sharing things and not acting like experts, just that we're trying to help, like, connect everybody again. I could get on with that, but I think, is that 2 minutes?
I knew it would be over 2 minutes, but I had to put a deadline, because for our listeners, if you've listened to podcasts before, if you've ever seen any advertisement on Purica, we know that, Jason, you were so passionate about the health and wellness industry, also Purica, what you guys stand for. We could just do an entire episode on that. But there are so many amazing things about Purica. So that summarized it from your standpoint. And I want to highlight a few other things. It's really important, I think, to mention that you guys are independently owned and operated. There are so many brands in Canada that have been bought up by large corporations. And we actually are starting to see a lot of our customers actually go this far into the research of the products that they're buying and spending money on, which I think is amazing, because that stands very, very high up for other brands who are still working in that capacity of being the operators and owners still. So important. And also, obviously, Joanne's Place being an independently owned health food store, that's also where our heart lies too. And we are seeing day in and day out these little brands being bought up, and large brands being bought up, and then just unfortunately dissolving in our industry, because that was the end goal. And we see that so much. So I want to highlight that the Purica is independently owned and operated, which is amazing. And as you've said, like, you guys are very methodical in the products that you put out. We also see brands put out hundreds of SKUs every year, and they just change one little thing. You guys have this amazing philosophy of having the foundational products that, yeah, they can target immune and stress and the whole body, but that doesn't mean you need to have 100 products to do that. So from like a purchasing standpoint and also a consumer of Purica, those are things that stand out about Purica that I greatly appreciate. And I can see that translate into our customers as well. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you today specifically about stress because the holiday season is right around the corner. I know as we sit here and record this, it's actually snowing outside here in Peterborough. So cooler temperatures are coming. People are starting to, host different things, more shopping. Those stress levels are, starting to rise up. And what we know, as the stress rises, there's lots of other things that can start to happen as well. So from a standpoint of stress increasing, what are some generalized things that our listeners should know that stress is doing to the body? So what other effects is that doing other than just saying, oh, I'm stressed? What is actually happening in the body overall as that stress starts to increase this holiday season?
Yes. And I think so. One of the things that happens in the seasons, you have the four F's of the stress response are the, fight or flight. A lot of people know those. You're either aggressive or you want to take off. But there's also the freeze response, which is really common. You just feel totally overwhelmed, like deer in the headlights. Oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You tend to disempower yourself and give up your authority to somebody else. But in this season, even more prevalent is the fawn response, which is faking. And so we're dealing with people you don't necessarily want to deal with, and they're stressing us out, and we're like, and so yeah. Oh, no, that's not what I mean. All that kind of thing. And especially the last 3 years has brought a lot of issues between families with difference of opinion. So it's even more difficult, even more of a fake response. So when that response is initiated, some people are better at it than others, but we're still engaging in actual stress response. We don't want to be having to do that. And it's very inauthentic. We're not being ourselves. That is draining you of all your energy. But more importantly, that stress response, whether it be fight, flight, freeze, or fun, that kind of thing, those are all about breaking your body down to get energy to fight or run, freeze, or fawn. And so you feel really drained. And that's why we have a tendency to get more and more sick. So getting sick more frequently, or detoxing, whatever you want to call it, happens more in this season. And that's why you feel so run down, because all your energy is going to that. So the idea is, before I even start with a couple more physical things, is instead of engaging in those habitual responses of how you fake it with a relative or a friend or whatever, or how you get into a freeze response and don't know what to do and feel overwhelmed, or fight or flight, is to try to see through that response in yourself. So it's also more about reflecting, because you can't change the other people. It's just not going to happen. I mean, sure, you can sometimes, but most of the time, there's this saying in this ancient text called The Way of the Bodhisattva, and it says that you basically, to paraphrase it, there's two ways of dealing with the world kind of idea. You can try to, if the world's thorny, you can try to cover the whole world in leather, which is trying to change everything to suit you so you feel better. Or you can literally put leather on the soles of your feet, and the whole world is better that way. So the idea is, the only thing we really have much control over is how we're seeing things. And if you can go that water off a duck's back idea, whatever technique people are using, and that's what we're talking about the mushrooms in a minute, is because they do help you to just let things slide more easily. And then your head will puff above the clouds. You see there's a blue sky up there. Oh, okay. I can just relax in this. I don't need to have that person agree with me at, the seasons. I don't need to feel like we're jiving. I can just listen to them. They have their opinion. And you know what? If you look at it like it's a movie, then it's kind of fun to watch. Even if it's totally different than you, you're going, whoa, that is really whack, or whatever. You don't have to get upset and think, I don't think like that. And then you fake it. On the outside, you're going like this, yeah. In the inside, you're, or you want to take off. So that's your body breaking itself down for fuel. Sugars are going to go up and fluctuate all over, because your body's needing the sugar to fight or run, but you're not doing that. So you feel ups and downs, and that has more disposition or predisposition to damage blood vessels. It's called glycation. So if you have a tendency to anything to do with cardiovascular disease or stroke or anything like that in your history, or you've had some issues, you've taken drugs, that could make it much, much worse, because you're getting sugar damage. Also, your vision will start to change, because glycation is damaging little blood vessels. So your vision can go blurry. What's going on? I'm not sleeping well. It can just because blood vessels are getting a little bit damaged. So the idea is we need to protect ourselves against that. And there's a whole range of other things that are happening, because your muscles are breaking themselves down for fuel to fight or run. You're not doing that. And so you're going to get less body heat, because your muscles have give you some body heat. Also, you're going to feel less energy. your lowered ability to utilize oxygen because your pH is dropping when you break your body down to fight or run, catabolizing. So you're feeling less energy. Your metabolism is not functioning properly. Again, the things that we see: get tired more frequently, ups and downs, get sick more easily, just feel like, oh, I don't feel good, can't think straight. That gets worse and worse. There's a lot more. I just want to focus on this part of it, the early tendencies. So what I'd suggest is to try to figure out anything that you can to help pop your head above the clouds. Like, get out of it, like just see through it. And that's where, we've talked about mushrooms, but sleep is a huge, huge thing. So mushrooms, if you can deal with stress, you can sleep better because you're not overthinking. And then you can heal. And then you won't get trapped in that drained kind of feeling where you just can't stand the seasons anymore. And this could be a really tough one because it's been so many years of what's been going on, that there could be a lot more animosity built up. So if you're getting together, and guilt feelings and all the rest coming up, it's just letting that slide. Sorry, I kind of tangent on that, but that's my style.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And like, we've talked about this in previous podcasts. It's like, you're never not going to be faced with the body in a stress response, whether it is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It's always going to occur. And that's actually good, because your body, that's what you want your body to do. You want your body to be able to make a decision in the moment it needs to. However, we want it to be able to regulate back to homeostasis within a timely manner, right? But what we see is like, it fluctuates up and down so much. Our blood sugars fluctuate. We get tired, we get fatigued, we're not sleeping. And we feel that probably up until about December 27th. And then 27th of December, everyone gets sick because their body's like, okay, I can start to re-regulate. But then we also start to see into the new year, people aren't necessarily starting the new year off with that fresh mindset. They're still feeling that sluggish mentality. They're maybe not sleeping great. They're maybe starting to feel that seasonal depression. But if we let those feelings and sensations in our body go for an extended period of time into the new year, what are some things that maybe we should be aware of that prolonged feeling is going to affect in the spring? So if we're thinking like preventatively now and in the spring, like, how are we going to feel if we keep going at this rate?
And I think the big one for me is if you then take it to the next step, this is what I focused on when I was dealing with the dancers in Europe with the ballet and autoimmune condition, was if you keep on going in this state where you're basically not, your mind's not at ease, your body's not at ease, you're in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and even if it's little, that then your mucosal moats through your body. So anywhere where there's a hole in your body, inside that hole is like a moat around a castle. Inside that is a sac or a tube. And inside there is really the outside environment. That's how microbes and that can live in there. So your genitourinary tract is really the outside environment in the inside, your respiratory tract, your nasal and mouth, obviously, and then your digestive cavity. So if we keep up with prolonged stress, the moat that normally keeps things out keeps breaking down, and you're not resting enough to repair it. So that's when you start dealing with digestive problems, respiratory problems, allergies, sensitivities, increased urinary tract infections or yeast infections. All these things are starting to happen because you're in a prolonged state of low grade or medium grade stress, or high even, that it's breaking down all your protective moats. And think of your body like a castle. Everything's getting in. What you first will notice typically is you have an inability to keep the energy levels up. Like, you actually might feel older. And then that's a signal that these things are happening. And then sometimes you don't have bright eyes because the mucosal layer on the eyes, if it's nice and smooth, produced properly, you have bright eyes. And that indicates what's happening inside. If you don't, you're overtired, overstressed, your eyes, you'll see it look more dull. That's because there's ridges in there and light doesn't reflect off it brilliantly. So I think that's a huge, huge thing for me. And then everything else can come from that. All these inflammatory disorders where you had an injury in your knee now will start to flare up again, even if it's got nothing to do with autoimmunity, just because all these things are getting into your blood. Your immune system is taking all your energy, targeting it now, when the moat should have kept it out. So prolonged states for me, simply in a huge way, is breaking down all those protective moats through your whole body, leaves you susceptible to everything that you normally wouldn't be. And all you really need is to try to rest, even in the day, and not get drawn in or caught up in what other people's opinions are, because that'll really drive that response constantly. So it's just that ability to say, okay, I can't change everybody, but I can change the way I respond. I know that I'm speaking old, and this is nothing new, but it's huge in the way it can make you feel physically and psychologically. And again, that's why I kind of got into the medicinal mushrooms, because they've been used in ancient times by the Tibetans, by the Chinese, by the Shaolin monks in China. And it's coordinating your mind and body, helping you just relax. And obviously, there's all these other things that you can do. And I do that meditation, yoga, things like that, walks in nature, kayaking, whatever. But we're kind of focused on in things you can take internally to assist that process.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's important to keep reminding people that we can't fix all things. We can't fix all problems, or we can't get everyone to see eye to eye, and we don't have to all agree on things. And I remember my therapist saying, like, in a moment when you have that initial response, to try, and it was simple as like trying to just find a solution for somebody, of somebody expressing them to you. You don't always have to have the answer, or you don't always have to try to prove your answer. You can actually just be like soft in that moment, and you can choose to absorb that information, or again, as you said, just let it roll off your back, because it shouldn't necessarily be something that you're, losing sleep over. If it is, then maybe it does require another conversation, but it's not worth it at the end of the day. So I know the next few weeks, one of my biggest jobs at Joanne's Place in store is actually setting up our Christmas displays, our Christmas section. And my plan is to have a beautiful section for this exact conversation: stress supporting supplements, and like other superfoods and nutrients. And I know we're going to talk about one of the biggest ones, which is Reishi. Would you agree that's probably one of the top ones our listeners should be considering this holiday season?
Absolutely. And I think it's got ancient use for that too, for helping you sleep better. Even if you wake up in the night, take it, you can take it again, it helps you get back to sleep. But they had so many names for it in ancient times, one being spirit mushroom, basically getting yourself out of that wound up in all this stuff and just relaxing out of it into a bigger frame of mind, which is you have more confidence that, and also it's that, okay, I said this before, as they did research on the 24 top traits of happy people. And there was thousands of people in it, and two traits dominated over all the rest. You've heard me probably say this before. And the top one that dominated, it was bigger than all the other 23 combined, was gratitude or appreciation. And that's the state you don't feel when you're stressed. It's the opposite of gratitude and appreciation. You feel resentful, you feel irritated, you feel impatient, distracted, judgmental, all these different things, which, again, we're not judging those things. That's just what happens. But when you feel gratitude and appreciation, you're right here, right now. And the interesting one that flowed from that, which is the big part right now, because, okay, yeah, whatever, you can get that blue sky mind gratitude right here, right now. But how often can we get that? But if you get that, what flows from that sparks all the rest of the traits is a love of learning or curiosity. So that's the idea, is when you feel total gratitude, you don't have the energy or even the gumption to be irritated, distracted, impatient, worried, judgmental, yourself or others. You're just kind of like here. And so anything that's there that people are saying that you normally disagree with, whatever, you just kind of like I said, you're interested. That's that idea of your ability to listen without filtering everything and judging inside your head. Then you don't have to fake it, because you're just standing there, you're interested. And I feel like, okay, that's what Reishi can help people do. That's why they used it in people that were practicing meditation or yoga, or even in the military, to have mind-body coordination, is to help your mind kind of drop into that state of being right here, right now kind of idea. And that's, again, the opposite of stress. And then these devices, so don't forget, devices after like 6 o'clock at night, any kind of device, even watching TV and that, is stimulating. So if you're already in that stimulated, jazzed up state, and your tendency to cling or fixate on different thoughts or ideas or ways of behaving or reacting, is that can drive you further. And so in the sleep, it's your mind's spun. and you won't get those deeper states of sleep that help you process and even bring in new information, so that tomorrow, if you, for instance, you have a whole bunch of stuff you're learning and you want to deal with some situation or person better. So you're learning all this stuff, and then they come at you, and then you get stressed and you forget everything you learned. So the idea is, if you can sleep better and process a lot of things you're learning, then they start to become more habitual, imprinted in your system. You can use them. But if you're still wound up and not sleeping, all the things you're learning will just get thrown out the door when you encounter that circumstance again. So the mushrooms can help you, again, medicinal mushrooms, certain ones. Reishi is like the top for that, for calming you down, allowing you to get more deeper, restful sleep, especially when you combine it with things like magnesium.
Yeah, I think for your slogan for Reishi, you should say gratitude in a capsule, because like the perfect way to describe that is when you do take Reishi. And this is probably my number one recommended mushroom, because most of the people that I deal with are in that chronic state of stress where everything just feels like 1,000,000 pounds on their shoulders, and they can't decide things. They can't pay attention to things. They can't sleep properly. They can't digest things properly because there's just so much noise up here. There's so much contemplating back and forth. And I see such a positive outcome by using Reishi. And at first, and I've heard you talk about this too, it's like you start taking mushrooms in general, and like you're like, okay, this is maybe working. Okay, this is working. And your life just naturally starts to, feel lighter and feel better. And then you're like, I'm going to take a break from my supplements. And very quickly you're like, okay, let's get back on that Reishi or whatever that mushroom might be, complete 360. And they really see the benefits of how calming that can be in so many areas. So the Reishi in particular, like you talked about the stress and having that clear type of mindset, clear ability to think, that blue sky type of mentality, also helping with sleep. Are there any other really great benefits that we should know that come with taking Reishi as a supplement?
So I think, so for blood pressure and things like that, they have a lot of research on blood pressure, memory, things like that. But I think there's a couple of interesting things that I saw. So if there's an addictive predisposition, which is very common, by the way, because anytime people feel disconnected in any way, which is a stress response, because when you're stressed, you armor, your body and mind armors itself. Even if that includes your family, you're armoring to protect. So everything's tightening, and you lose that ability for open-minded thought. So Reishi is allowing, and then that leads to addictions. Like if you look at some of the top traits of addictive personalities types, which is seemingly a lot of us now, is you feel disconnected. And so when they have different therapies and different things people use, people tend to report, I feel connected, whether it be to the earth, or if someone has the language of, say, God or love, I feel connected to love or God, or whatever it is in that person's vocabulary, they tend to feel that. So the Reishi helps you to feel more connected or relaxed. So that armoring response is loosened up. It's kind of like, here's a good way of saying it. In ancient times, they had, if you have a bundle of wheat and it's tied really tight, right? That's stress. And so all you have to do is loosen the string and the bundle just loosens off. Imagine that feeling in your body and your mind of that tight and then loosening off, that you can just relax for a second. And so that's one. And the other one that seems to be tied to that is ADHD. So ADHD, you have the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So you always feel on a little bit of edge. And some of the people that have ADHD, they have mindsets that are, it's almost like you feel like you can navigate a lot of things around you. And so your mind has a habit of doing that, and it's engaging everything. And then you feel just wound up. If you can bring that down, relax, but stay open. So instead of all the clouds and everything that are flying through the sky and you watch them, instead of trying to cling on every one, that could be ADHD, right? Is that you can just watch them and not cling. So your mind is still really bright, really clear, but it's not clinging and grabbing onto everything, because that's what really tightens everything up. So you're really trying to loosen up. Reishi does that. So ADHD. Another one is, so anybody trying to quit something that doesn't mean it matters addiction or not, just a habit, right? Smoking or a whole bunch of other things that we have habit, eating a lot of sugars, this is something, again, that can allow you to just ease off that. Because that whole idea of fixation on foods or drugs or entertainment, whatever, something to excite you and bring you back into a state of feeling alive and well, is that you just need to loosen that off. And that's what Reishi seems to do really well. And I think, unlike other things people can take that are more sedative in action, a lot of people that are ADHD or whatever have that going on. They don't want to lose all that brightness and clarity and just go, yeah, like that, which is what a lot of pharmaceutical drugs can do, or things that people use to try to get out of that. Reishi is not like that at all. Reishi will calm you up, but also keep you really clear and bright. So you're not going to lose that part of you that you might really actually like about the behavior that you're participating in. So I think everybody can benefit from Reishi in that way. And then for the heart, again, for blood pressure and things like that, again, that shows that it's relaxing you, because blood pressure is just when you squeeze like a hose and you want to shoot the water farther. Blood pressure increases because you think, if your body thinks you're in fight or flight, so it needs blood flow to the arms and legs. So it pinches the smooth muscle wrapping the blood vessels to push the blood out to the extremities. And so if you can ease off those smooth muscles, then you feel at ease, and it affects your heart and everything else as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, and I'm glad you touched on it, that Reishi has the ability to really help with that clear mind, making more conscious decisions without losing the spark. Because that's the other thing, is I think people also are trying to find that balance where they still have the drive and the excitement and that like gratification of whatever it might be, whether it is like an addiction to something, or could be an addiction to work, or like or finishing your to-do list, or whatever that might be. But what we see so often is so many people hit that gratification of whatever it is, and then the downfall to that is so dramatic, where then it's like, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm fatigued, we see that constantly happen. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like mushrooms, the way that they allow the body to adapt, is like you can still maintain that level of feeling good and feeling accomplished and doing whatever you're doing without having that immediate like exhaustion phase where things are crashing and then you're trying to build yourself back up. You still get to have that euphoric feel of what makes you happy and makes you feel good without having that drastic up and down, correct?
Yeah, because in that one state of stress, you're always going for something. You're going for something. So we're all actually, if you think about it in a deeper way, if with those studies that showed, we're going for a state of mind and body where we're immersed in gratitude or appreciation as a word. It could be a sublime love or sublime awareness, whatever people want to say, but we're looking for that presence of mind that is totally in a state of contentment. And that's the opposite of stress. We're always doing. So if we're having something we're addicted to, or a habit to go after, is because we're actually looking for the feeling that we think that gives us, which is the appreciation, gratitude, which is what we're going for, or whatever you want to name it, for that moment of, I feel totally happy. But then you lose it because you've had to go, and then it's going to that. Instead, we're looking for, with mushrooms are giving you that you're fine, just breathing. Because I think that's important, is that everybody is okay just breathing. To just breathe is okay. That it's to just be there. And if you can get that state, then all the things you're going for with all these things you're doing, it's way better to feel it right now, because then there's no ups and downs. You actually start to acclimatize or familiarize with that blue sky mind idea, where you just feel a state of and again, there's so many ways to approach this, and everybody's so different. And if you find one thing that gets you there, that you're not having to work, and just there, then it's good to actually look at that and say, hey, that did help me, and try that for yourself. Like everybody said, different religions pitted against each other, all the stuff that happens in science and all this as a religion kind of idea now, is all these things are just approaches, but it's up to you to kind of like just, okay, that worked. I see that. That's different. And that's where I think Reishi, our blends, they help you to find even a glimpse of that blue sky. That's all you need. Because once you see that, once you feel that you're relaxed, I'm at ease, I didn't have to go after all these things, and I don't have these ups and downs for some reason that just happened, you'll never forget it. And if you see that that is actually a real powerful state or paradigm that goes beyond all these identifications with what I want to call myself, what are my emotions, what are my thoughts, what are my tendencies. When you go past that and all those things become more like moving clouds through your mind, you're way brighter. Your mind works in a much more impressive way. You feel relaxed, you feel gratitude, and then, like I said, getting back to this Christmas season or whatever, holiday season, you just feel like I can handle these conversations that would normally drive me nuts because I do not want to be talking to this person right now. And then later, and they love talking to you, but you just, So the idea is then you just be relaxed. And this is ancient. It's coming back now. And the last 3 years did a number on the modern way of presenting health. A lot of people lost confidence. Huge amounts of people lost confidence. Now we can return to more traditional ways, which are more experiential language. I feel heat, I feel cold, I feel tense, I feel phlegmy, whatever. All these things that make sense to people instead of, your prostaglandin or cyclooxygenase. That requires experts, and experts in their very definition. Really, when you have all these experts, it disempowers you and you feel like you can't even assess your own well-being. When you start to feel like you can again, then you'll notice when the blue sky mind glimpse or whatever happens and how you feel and how much more energy you have and how much brighter you feel in life, and get rid of the depression, the anxiety, all these things going on, or the tension, or the feeling like you have to exert your opinion, even if it's only in your own mind. Those kind of things just fall away. And then you feel like, okay. And the ancients knew that. That's why they called Reishi thing like spirit mushroom. That's why Shaolin monks use it for unbelievable. If you ever get a chance to watch them, the mind-body coordination of Shaolin, and they use mushrooms as a mainstay to help them coordinate mind and body, so they feel right here, right now. Because that's anybody that's an athlete that has that experience of the zone. When I was running or doing things like that, when you have that feeling, it's just where everything's gone. Your tiredness is gone. You're feeling like I have to get there. I have to. All that goes, and it's as if again your head went above the clouds and everything's, whoa, just let go of everything. And then you feel like you can run again in a super way. Any athlete has been through that and knows that. And a lot of people, we have that. We just don't pay attention to it. And we get right back into the thick of things. So the idea is to try to acclimatize with that space and to know that you don't have to be stressed to take a test, to learn all this stuff. As a matter of fact, your mind works much more effectively in learning and everything and communicating if you're not caught up in I have to figure this out, I have to do it, and just relax. So anyways, long-winded again, but I think Reishi has such an ancient history. I think it has more research than any other mushroom. Turkey tails is quite big too because of the PSP and PSK in cancer research. But lion's mane, obviously huge. Lion's mane pairs super well with Reishi. And for me, in looking at if I had ADHD that way, that pair would be one that I would definitely consider with magnesium, is the Reishi and lion's mane. And then there's lots of other things that work, but I think Reishi, like you said, it is that one that just in our society, when everybody's so frenetic, everything is so frenetic, so much information, so many facts coming out, I don't know what to believe, just to help you relax, get off your back kind of idea.
Now, for our listeners who are like, I need that in my life right now, what type of dosage, and also like maybe like dosage, but also length, do you feel that people should be taking that to reach that state of letting things roll off their back, to have that blue sky feeling, and then just be able to, really digest what they're consuming, but then not be so reactive with the responses as well?
Yeah. And like you've seen in the store, everybody's really different, but I'd say with Reishi, there's different preparations where they're, say, extracting out certain compounds, losing. We don't do that. We keep them all together and then we put it in a jet mill and micronize, so it breaks all the fibers apart and releases all the actives in suspension. Like that's key if you're trying to affect your mind space, psychologically. If you're just going for immune benefits, things like that, yeah, then you could extract it for polysaccharides. But if you're going for it to change your nervous system, because that's the first to react, your mind space, I would say that, say for our recommendations would be, say, 2 to 4 caps a day. And here's an interesting thing. Some people start the day off already stressed, thinking about all things that are going to happen, all that kind of stuff, right? Anticipation, right? And then reflecting on the past, right? So they're not actually right here, right now. They're already starting. That's somebody that would benefit more if you split up the dose during the day, like 2 caps twice a day of 400 to 500 milligrams, if it was whole like that. But some people, they don't really get stressed until later when their energy level is dropping, because maybe they do have a really intense job and thinking all the time. Sometimes they do better if they take all the dose at night, if they're trying to use it for sleep. I think if you're trying to use it overall nervous system, and then get the benefits within a few days to a week where you're starting to feel that water off of that back, things aren't bugging me, I would do the 2 caps twice a day idea. Or there's powder way. You can do it in a powder and just stick it. Then you don't even taste it. You can boil it, so you can put in soups, or you can smoothies and coffee, whatever you want. And it's actually less expensive that way, and it's more integrated into your diet. Again, you're going to want to maintain that certified organic, because you don't want to add extra stuff to mushrooms. Another thing to be concerned with mushrooms is the wild mushrooms, which would have been great thousands of years ago. Mushrooms are sponges. They suck up every kind of toxicity in the environment, including radiation, heavy metals, pesticides, you name it. So it's not good if you're trying to get really strong benefits from reishi to be partaking of the wild or hothouse forms. They're also loaded with molds and yeast when they're out in the wild. And so then you have to irradiate it. So trying to keep as like it was 2,000 years ago, how do you duplicate that in this environment? You have to grow them in-house on certified organic things, and then change atmospheric pressures, try to mimic the outside environment, but keep it really clean so you don't have molds and yeast and everything else on it. It's just super powerful. And then, like I say, then you encapsulate all the ingredients, 2 caps twice a day, and you should notice it. Sometimes you can notice it very quickly. Like, for instance, if you pair reishi for sleep, in my experience, with ashwagandha and then magnesium, and not a lot of it, and say half an hour to an hour before you go to sleep, it can work the first night. And then say if you have that tendency to wake up 2 or 3 hours in, you're waking up, and for no other reason, say it doesn't have to be, say, women that are going through menopause where you have hot flash and things like that. Not even that. I'm just saying you're overthinking right away. Then you can take it another dose, and within half an hour back to sleep again. And the thing is about this is you start developing another pattern, because sleep, I know, because I had a year and a half of major insomnia a long time ago, it's like, say you have this open field, and then you have a bike, and you're riding your bike through the field, and you want to get to this destination. There's really cool things happening all over the place, but you're focused on the destination. So then you keep riding your bike in that pattern all the time, and it builds a rut. And then you don't even have to really try to balance. The bike will just go through the rut. The problem is now you're in a rut of way of doing things. This happens in your mind. You develop ruts, right? Sleeping is a pattern. If you can't sleep and you think, I can't sleep, I'm not going to be able to sleep, all that stuff starts patterning, and you're going through it. It's familiar. So you keep on riding your bike through that path. So taking something like reishi, or our complete 360 product, which is a blend, you take that, it's like picking your bike up all out of the rut and putting it back on the open field. Now you can go wherever you want. You don't believe that you can't sleep, you're caught in that rut, or that your mind is overthinking, right? You actually have a whole new way, and totally open. Like that, I always mention that song, Into the Great Wide Open, that idea. Now I have open space. You can do that. People that do meditation, that's what meditation is, not to just calm yourself. Yes, that's part of meditation. But meditation is to familiarize yourself with the open space of your mind, which is the nature of your mind. Your mind is not all the things you identify with. It's not all the thoughts. It's not all the emotions, not all your habitual ways of reaction. Those are just tendencies that are built in, like those ruts in the bike. You want to get out of that, because that's identifying with something which actually constricts you and makes you feel like you have to do everything in certain ways. Like if you only have a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail idea. Now you want to get out of that. You feel fresh and open, and there's a whole new level of confidence. And with reishi, ashwagandha, magnesium, for instance, if I have to lecture in the morning, once I went to Ontario, I had 9 days. I mentioned this one a lot because I had these issues before, is 9 days in a row, 9 different hotels, 9 different cities, minimum of 2 2-hour presentations each day, one in the morning at 7, one at night, and then some in the middle of the day. So you can imagine that already. You're 3 hours different time zone. You're going to different cities all the time. You don't even know you're waking up. Sometimes you wake up, where am I? I don't understand. And then if you wake up and you take something like a pharmaceutical thing to help you sleep, or a natural thing to help you sleep that's sedative, that sedates you, then I wouldn't be able to perform in the morning. I wouldn't be able to talk because I wouldn't be able to think. So I had to be able to sleep and fall asleep. And you're wound up after doing a lecture after, right? Because you're on a high, to come down, but not to come down so the next morning you feel dopey. That's what the Reishi ashwagandha magnesium did for me. Sometimes just Reishi does that for people, sometimes just magnesium, but you wake up totally refreshed. You can do what you need to do physically or mentally without feeling in that sedated state. That's because you actually went into deep rhythms of sleep and then into REM sleep. For instance, if you take a sedative, because there's so many sleeping things out there, right? Everybody that's had issues with sleep, and there's more than ever, has tried them. But a lot of them, what they do is they only put you into the initial stages of sleep, the phases. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, REM, 3, 4, 3, and usually back REM. But a lot of people, what happens is they fall lightly to sleep 1 or 2 and then come right back up again to 1 or whatever. They'll never even hit 3 and 4. And to me, I think to focus a tiny bit on sleep for me, I came up with this analogy, is say you have a desk and you have all these papers all over your desk and you have your file cabinet. And so you have all your categories in your mind of how you do things and everything. That's in your file cabinet. Now you experience something new today, whatever it is, an experience emotionally, physically, conceptually, whatever. It's like new papers on your desk. And now you're trying to assess your mind so that you can utilize these things, your emotions or your thoughts or your physical learning. You're trying to now organize them and pattern them so you can file them properly in the folders. Then that's what your body's doing at night, and your mind at night is it's processing everything it's done physically or mentally, emotionally, whatever, in those deeper states of sleep. Stage 3, 4, especially REM, rapid eye movement state, when you're really deep sleep. That's where your body and your mind are categorizing and organizing everything. So you can take that into your life in an organized way. When you don't get, and so it's folding them away. So your desk is nice and clean. You wake up totally refreshed, but now you have more that you've learned and taken in. Instead, if you don't go in those deeper states of sleep, it's like you keep piling up papers all over your desk, and even papers you took out of your folder, right? Because you're trying to match them up. They're still on the desk. So even stuff that you had before that you used to remember or used to be able to do, you start even forgetting how to do that, or feeling not less comfortable even physically doing certain things. Yeah, because you're not sleeping. And so we're messing up our whole desk, and our whole mind space is all messed up and cloud, and I don't know what to do. Just one really good, deep sleep, not by the sedative functions, because they don't take you there. If you can get a deep sleep, that will help you reorganize your entire desk. Think, whoa, that's all I needed was one sleep. Stress doesn't allow you to do that. It's the opposite of that, because it's totally distracted, disheveled, frenetic. Your whole desk is a mess, your whole mind space, your body, you're not taking learning. Even for athletes, they're not thinking about this. Well, that doesn't affect me. I still sleep fine or whatever, but I'm not making gains. Yeah, you can make way better gains from your training if you can get into those deeper states of sleep. So it's not just about rest or whatever to recuperate. It's actually real rest when you go deep. And sometimes, when you're super tired, and you'll have like a 25, 30-minute sleep when you go really fast, really deep. So, whoa, that was refreshing. Then you take it longer and you don't feel so great. Yeah, because you're sort of half asleep in that state, in a superficial state. It's not helping you. It's just making you feel all disheveled again. So it's that deep state. REM, Reishi can help you. Magnesium can help you. Ashwagandha. Our complete 360 is kind of blending everything so you can work it even better. But Reishi, like you've been talking about here, it's really masterful at helping you and assisting you to get into those states. Then you do a lot of things that are more conducive to relaxation and clarity. Like you might start meditation or yoga, or going for walks in nature, or just being able to sit and listen to nice music without your head going all these things that I should do or I shouldn't have done that. Just right here, breathing, period. Sorry, I
Yeah.
went off
So
again.
no, that's okay. It's so hard. Like, it's so hard to teach people the like how to just be in the moment, like sit in that and be present. It's something that somebody has to feel and realize, ooh, that felt good. Like, I want to chase that feeling. How can I do that without having to do 8 million types of things? And I do think Reishi is a really great support for that. And I can also say that because I have had my own experience with Reishi by Purica and I love it. And the way I take it is kind of how you said at nighttime. Like, I take the 2 capsules at night because that's typically when I'm like, oh, what do I got to remember for tomorrow? What do I have to do to set myself up for tomorrow? Like, that's when my mind races, is for the next day. So I take the Reishi, I take magnesium. I like that combo. And then you quickly mentioned the Complete 360, which we're not going to get into because we talked on a previous podcast. And for our listeners, I'll leave that episode in the description so that you can check that out. But I take that every morning and I've taken that for years. And I really think that that has been the reason I have not experienced chronic burnout, chronic like inflammation, stress. Like, the last few years have been a lot of change, but I have been able to adapt to those changes. And I really think it's because of the Complete 360 of having mushrooms being so supportive. So I take that every morning and the Reishi at night. But if you do start to incorporate Reishi, figure out when you are the most stressed. As you said, Jason, like if you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get all these things to do, like done today, start your day off with Reishi so you can have that clear mind getting going. And then if you're someone who struggles with the sleep aspect, I mean, that might be both as well. You can just kind of play with your dosages, which is so great. So for our listeners, I'm going to have a display set up in store talking about these Reishi products, some of the other products like the Complete 360 as well from Purica. And Jason, I could talk all day with you about mushrooms and brands and different like amazing aspects from Purica, but I want to say thank you so much for sharing your insight on Reishi and really making the information something that people can resonate with, right? It's not all about the scientifics. It's not all about like all the internet connected pieces to it, but really being like, oh, I can relate to that symptom. Oh, that's me. I need to get set up for the holiday season and get Reishi into my daily routine. So I want to thank you so much. And thank you so much for being on our podcast and sharing your wealth of knowledge. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate this too, because you're so engaging. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
If you guys are still here, I want to thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Just setting a friendly reminder that the conversations had on the Wellness on Purpose podcast are for educational purposes only and does not replace any medical advice. If you want further information on the topics or the products spoken about in the episode, please pop into one of our Joanne's Place locations to learn more. And you can also check with your professional healthcare provider before adding in any of these products or recommendations into your daily routine. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to catching you in our next one.